On today's episode of Out Loud and Laughing,
I learned that there are 400,000 kids in the system. I learned that while the system is designed for these kids to be reunited with their families, whether it's parents or grandparents or aunts or uncles or cousins, even honestly like an English teacher from the elementary school or a favorite coach they had growing up, it turns out about 25% of these kids, they will never be reunified. So that means they're free for adoption. There's actually more than 100,000 kids in the system free for adoption, just waiting to find their forever families. And I can tell you that the kids who are LGBTQ+, especially those of color who are gender non-binary, these kids have the worst experiences. And as I learned more and more, my heart broke.
welcome to another episode of Out Loud
And Laughing.
Get Ready.
I'm Brian.
And Jon, two gay cousins having great talks to even bigger laughs. Join us. Let's see what they're up to. It's Out Loud and Laughing.
Hello, everybody. Welcome back to another episode of Out Loud and Laughing. I'm Jon.
And I am Brian. And we are super excited because we are not alone today. We are introducing another Brian to the chat, Brian Rosenberg. So we're super excited to have him here. He is the founder of Gays with Kids, amongst so many other things that he has done amazing for our community. And Brian, welcome.
Thank you so much. Thanks to have me here. I'm excited to be a guest on your podcast.
Yes, we are super excited. We're super excited to learn a little bit more about you, GWK Academy, and all the things that you have cooking in the works. So maybe you can kind of just give us an update on like, what are you working on and what are you doing?
My husband and I have 3 kids through adoption and surrogacy. Levi, we found out about when he was 3 days old. We brought him home from the hospital 2 days later. Today actually in 15 days, he will be 16 years old and he's bigger than I am.
Wow.
Levi has twin girls, Ella and Sadie, who were born through surrogacy. I like to share that I'm the biological dad. And the reason I share that is because I'm also HIV positive. I have been since before I met my husband. And in June, we will have been together for 32 years.
Wow. Congratulations.
So thank you.
I love it.
It would have been better if either of you said, no, there's no way you've been together for 32 years.
It's beautiful. I'm a
whatever.
hopeless romantic, Brian. I still believe in these stories.
I mean, because you don't think I'm old enough, but all right.
You could be my brother.
All right, there you go. Oh, yeah. And I share that because in case anyone listening also has HIV or perhaps another chronic illness, I want to make sure that they know that that is not a hindrance for them to become a parent.
That's beautiful.
And I would say when we were going through either of our journeys, so the girls are 17 months younger than Levi, so they're 14. So we're talking 17, 18 years ago, 15, 16 years ago, there was a dearth of resources, right? There was no Gays with Kids or GWK Academy. There was really next to nothing available. And basically what would happen is we'd go and we'd meet with an IVF clinic doctor or a surrogacy agency or an adoption agency or an adoption attorney, and we meet in person, right? And the meeting would last 30 minutes to an hour and a half, depending who it was with. We'd walk out, and I turned to Fer, and I'm like, do you know what they said about X, Y, and Z? And I just seemed like we had more questions coming out than we did going in. And I remember thinking, I wish there was some place we could get help with. So in all seriousness, I don't think we made a single decision, either our surrogacy journey or our adoption journey, feeling confident about that decision. And so I want to change that. And so several years after becoming dads, after the kids were eating solid foods and out of diapers and Levi was in daycare, and we had like a chance to breathe, right? Because we literally had 3 kids under the age of 2. We launched Gays with Kids, and my goal was to help others, especially those with HIV, become dads. And the way I did it was by sharing stories. So that was March of 2014, actually. And since then, we have shared hundreds and hundreds, well into thousands, right? The stories are on our website, on social media, and almost all anecdotally from the standpoint of the dad. So, for example, meet Brian and Fur together since June of 1993, but when they met, Brian was living with HIV. At the time, they were not thinking about parenthood. They were, they went to some 20, 30 funerals in those early years of guys in their 20s and 30s. And so it was just a question of how long these guys would get to be able to stay together. And then things changed. The so-called eighth cocktail came out, and we realized we had a life to look forward to. And it took us a while, but eventually we decided that should include parenthood. And so now we're dads, and we can't believe how lucky our lives are. Stories that would make people's hearts go pitter-patter, and I guess I'm a slow learner because it took me a while to realize it didn't help anyone actually become dads, right? You'd be like, okay, that's an awesome story. I'm inspired. Now what do I do? And so that's why we launched or created GWK Academy. And we actually came up with the idea during COVID, and we launched it, in 2020, 21. I don't remember exactly. But at any rate, we have courses that take you everything you need to know about all your options. Because unlike me, I want to make sure you're educated before you start. And then we do free coaching calls. And in addition to that, we also connect people with mentors. People have gone through the same journey you're about to undertake, but much more recently than myself. And with vetted family building partners, which is extremely important, especially today.
I love that. Thank you for sharing. I think it's such a great resource because as you and I discussed, I went through surrogacy. I have a 5-year-old and an almost 4-year-old. And so that was 2019. And I also felt very alone, right? And my partner and I had we didn't know what questions to ask. We felt like we didn't really have a support system. And so this resource is massive and huge and really helps us kind of eliminate some of those question marks that we have. So I applaud you, and we thank you for putting the work into that because it's super important. I guess my question is, now that you've been doing this, like what are some of the surprising and rewarding parts of doing this? Because I can imagine you're in a group, but like what are some of the moments where you felt like, wow, this is why I do this?
Oh, that's an easy one. So I told you we do coaching calls. So I talk to every gay guy that comes into GWK Academy, and I still haven't really answered your question about what's new and exciting, but I will get to that. And my favorite 30 minutes, because every call lasts exactly 30 minutes. It's so weird. But my favorite 30 minutes is talking to someone who wants to become a dad and helping them understand their options. Those who've already chosen which path is best for them for whatever reason, helping them understand what that path is going to look like, key milestones, and just being there to support them in any way, shape, or form. I love it so much, especially what I really, really love, like brings me to tears, is when I'm talking to guys in their 20s who say to me, I want to become a dad, singles, couples, etc. And I just look back, I told you I'm HIV positive, and I was around during the worst of the AIDS crisis when no one was thinking about this. We're going to funerals. And I look at these guys, 23, I think is the youngest guy I talked to, 25, 26. And I just think, my God, when I was your age, I just living with HIV, going to funerals. And I love if that's not even, doesn't even commute for you. You're already planning for the future that only straight people got to plan for back then.
That's huge. That's really, really huge. And,
It is.
I lived in San Francisco for a bit. A lot of our viewers know. And so, that story and story, places where the gay community really sort of congregated, the East Village in Manhattan, Castro in San Francisco, Miami, like some of these places that felt like little safe havens. The stories that were coming out were not ones of hope during that time.
No.
Most definitely. And without that light of hope, passing on your legacy through things like fatherhood and being a parent, or parenthood rather, motherhood included, was not a viable path, or even one that was you could see forward. So I think it's really beautiful. This has been tied into this story because, a lot of times just the thought alone of accessing parenthood feels completely inaccessible to this community, on top of like having faced already so many challenges. So putting that story together is amazing.
Thank you. Well, I'll add to the story a little bit. So I lived in Boston, in the South End, another one of those communities. Or as my brother used to likes to say, one of the gay villages, but gay shtetls. Actually, he's the Jewish term shtetls.
Yes.
And I was going to think whether I should say that, but at any rate,
give us all your Yiddish, Brian.
Yeah,
Exactly.
I worked at the time for Fenway Community Health Center, which was Boston's big LGBT, and it still is, health center. And at one time, for about 2 years, I ran a program called the Living Well series. I was part of a health education team. My responsibility was to help HIV positive men stay healthy and HIV negative men remain HIV negative. Within the health department was a woman who dealt with breast cancer and the women's health, and another woman who ran their parenting program. It was called Alternative Insemination, and 98% of the people she supported were women.
What year was this?
This was 95, 94.
No, not too long ago.
96.
Not that long ago.
No.
Thank you for sharing that. It definitely adds more context to exactly what it is we're talking about, right? My question was going to be a little bit more forward, once deciding about making that decision and moving into parenthood, and especially of this younger generation navigating this and accessing tools like yourself, Gay with Kids. What is the number one question that you find first-time parents coming forward with, as somebody who sits in the room who doesn't have sort of that lens yet? I'm interested to know sort of what's that common ground first question that everybody comes to that you think.
So are you asking what people ask the first time when they're starting their journey or when they're parents? Because
starting the journey. Sorry. Thank you for that clarification.
No worries. So another easy one. You guys just throwing these snowballs at me.
Are you just easy, Brian? Do we have to talk to your
That's
husband?
a whole other conversation, John.
Come back.
That's a different. That's a different
episode. That's a different episode for sure.
That's great.
All right, I gotta get that stuff out of my mind. So the very first thing is everyone wants to know, where do I get started? And I say, you've come to the right place, because honestly, we created GWK. All right, so can I now feel like this is a good time for me to share what we're doing with GWK Academy.
Would love that. Come on, bring it.
Cool. All right.
Yeah, sure.
So I just had a very, very, very large birthday, and quite frankly, a number that there's no way in hell I ever thought I'd come close to getting back in the day, but thank you. Just turned 60.
I was going to say March. 21. Congratulations.
Oh, there you go. Good.
Wow.
And
a compliment.
I will always take that. And coming up for the last 6 months, I spent a lot of time thinking about legacy, right? And then that coupled with the political climate that we're in, I had a couple of epiphanies. One is that I love helping gay men become dads. However, within the LGBTQ community, there are a lot of other letters. And so there really are not so many other opportunities and places for them to go. So as of April of 2025, GWK Academy, we spun that out separate from Gays with Kids. It's its own separate nonprofit entity, and we support all paths to parenthood for the entire LGBTQ plus community.
Unbelievable.
Beautiful.
So I'm super excited.
Congratulations on that. That's wild.
Thank you. I will share that a side mission of mine. So not only do I want us to become known as the very first stop on any queer person's journey to parenthood. And by the way, wherever you are, we'll meet you there and help you with the rest of the journey. But I really do want to become known as the first stop, because the first thing we'll do is educate you on all your options. And one sort of side mission that I have also is I got into this I learned about the foster care system, right? I learned that there are 400,000 kids in the system. I learned that about while the system is designed for these kids to be reunited with their families, whether it's parents or grandparents or aunts or uncles or cousins, even honestly, like an English teacher from the elementary school or a favorite coach they had growing up, it turns out about 25% of these kids, they will never be reunified. So that means they're free for adoption. So that means there's actually more than 100,000 kids in the system, free for adoption, just waiting to find their forever families. And I could tell you that the kids who are LGBTQ plus, especially those of color who are gender non-binary, these kids have the worst experiences. And as I learned more and more, my heart broke. And so I'm hoping that by putting foster care front and center and letting people know you can become a biological family, you can adopt a kid from the system, that I can have some kind of impact creating more LGBTQ plus families through the foster care system.
Wow, thank you for sharing that. That's beautiful. And I think it's a testament to like, there's no right way to build a family.
No.
There's many different paths. And it sounds like you're just trying to check all the boxes. So when someone does start talking to you and your team, they don't feel alone and they feel like they can get the answer that they need. And
Yes.
honestly, that's amazing. So thank you for sharing. And something that, I mean, a little bit of a pivot, but not really, because you talked about it a little bit, is I feel like you've become definitely an expert in this space, and you've seen obviously all the changes that have been happening even the last few months. And, I'm so happy that you're a resource that exists and will continue to exist.
Thank you.
Because no one's going to take you away from us, right? But
No.
what's happening right now in this climate? Like, I know we've talked a little bit about DEI, and a lot of resources that were available to us are kind of no longer. And so how is your company navigating this new world, and how are you potentially filling in some of the gaps to make sure that there is a space for us to kind of go?
Sure. That's a great question. Okay. What happened to the snowballs you're lobbing at me?
There we go.
So I will say this, that I had 2 conversations in the last 2 days around DEI. And one is I learned how it's affecting us in ways you can't even imagine. So we all know that there's a retraction or a reframing in DEI and supporting our community, generally speaking, right? Companies and providers that once waved the pride flag are going silent. And we LGBTQ plus families are absolutely feeling the ripple effects. Policy rollbacks like book bans, anti-trans health care laws and now, not allowing trans military people, like that disproportionately impacts queer parents and our kids. Some family building partners. So I refer to any surrogacy agency, IVF clinic, adoption agency, attorneys, etc., as family building partners. And they're family building partners that are quietly reducing LGBTQ plus specific messaging or services out of caution. I know people who are afraid to. I'm talking right now to a guy that we just helped them on their surrogacy journey. And one of the couple is a federal employee, and he does not want to be out about being a dad than anything gays with kids or GWK Academy related, because he's afraid. I mean, that's awful. So that's a huge concern of mine. And queer people, we still want to build families more so today than before. And so we're having to ask, will this clinic support me? Will this agency understand who I am? And that uncertainty is new, and it's dangerous.
Yeah.
Did I answer your question?
You definitely did.
Okay.
I mean, I don't have to think about. John, what are you thinking right now? Because actually kind of being on the outside, kind of looking in, because this isn't your daily now, but it's definitely something that you do think about,
Oh, John's on mute.
Oh, John. Oh, that's what John's on mute. Why?
Oh, well, that's why we edit. There was a lawnmower in the background. Sorry.
I'm sorry. I have one too. This must be the day.
bloopers. We'll dive right back in. Cut. Thank you so much. I do. I am on the periphery of this. I see what's going on. And as somebody who doesn't have children, as somebody who wishes to have children, you know, I can't even begin to fathom like what are the barriers that I will face once I jump into this ring. And it doesn't seem to be getting any easier. It seems to be getting, especially with the state of the world that we're in today, it just seems to be getting a little bit more dismal. But thank you for keeping the light on for us all. But with that, you know, what do you foresee the biggest barriers to be? I know that you said, you know, there's a lot about fear. There's a lot about looking for places that support people that support us. I will say us. I don't even want to put a label on it. What other barriers are there for people that are entering this space?
So in general, regardless of what's going on, there are some pretty big barriers, right? Queer people don't just have to build up families. We have to defend them legally once we have them, right? From day one, there are, across the country, there are legal barriers, there's a patchwork of protections. So, for example, parentage laws still vary widely by state. LGBTQ plus parents often have to adopt their own children to secure legal rights, even when we're on the birth certificates. Second parent adoptions, Brian, you'll know this as well, time-consuming, expensive, emotionally painful. Some states still do not protect LGBTQ plus individuals from being denied services by adoption or foster care agencies on the basis of religious freedom. Other states lack explicit protections for our families, for individuals or couples who are trying to create families. So these states may legally discriminate against them without violating state laws. We still hear horror stories of queer people being turned away, or, you know, what's worse to me, not being turned away, but just purposely being misguided. I talked to a few people who live in red states who didn't know they had to do their research to find the right agencies to work with, but one was for adoption and one was for foster care, foster adopt. And so they found agencies that clearly do not work with the LGBTQ plus community, and they just kept them in the system. 2 years waiting to be matched with a foster care kid. Remember I told you there are 400,000 kids in the system. Trust you when I tell you, no one waits a long time to be matched with a kid. So, it's awful. Discrimination by other providers too, right? Fertility clinics and surrogacy agencies that lack inclusive policies or subtly discourage us. Same-sex male couples, especially having to face higher upfront scrutiny and cost hurdles. Trans and non-binary individuals routinely being misgendered or denied care by providers who are just unfamiliar with them. The high cost and unequal insurance coverage. So I tell Brian, I don't know what you paid, but I tell people today who are just getting started on a surrogacy and IVF journey to prepare to spend somewhere between $150,000 and $240,000. Now I know that's a huge gap, right? And some of that's because, well, it depends on some choices you make, and others because there are some things that are just, quite frankly, beyond your control. It's a ton of money that we have to pay, and insurance plans don't cover this for our community. Definitions of infertility often exclude us, so we have to pay out of pocket or go through all kinds of unnecessary, crazy loops to get coverage. Even adoption costs are skyrocketing. I tell people today, if they're planning to adopt, plan to spend around $50,000. Now, in terms of grant, there are literally 2 organizations I know that provide decent, significant grants. The one for surrogacy is men having babies, but they have different levels of grants. The one that provides real amount, significant amount, they only help so many people a year. But they're available. Actually, GWK Academy Family Building Partners also give discounts to the surrogacy and IVF space, but you're still going to spend, hundreds of thousands of dollars. There is, in the adoption space, there's one organization. They are the gold standard of grant gift organizations called Help Us Adopt, run by a good friend of mine whom I love, Becky Fawcett. She provides grants of up to $30,000, and she and her board love the gays.
Shout out to
They
Becky.
do rolling. Yes, every time they do grants like just 4 times a year, and each time she comes to me and says, "I want more LGBTQ applicants. You gotta get more people our way." So I love her.
Amazing.
I want to give her
Very
a shout
good.
out. Gosh, one more thing. Bias, and I did write notes so I wouldn't forget. Bias in foster and adoption systems. So the irony here is that we are the ones stepping up for kids who need homes more than anyone else. Yet the system often puts roadblocks for us, right? I told you that that some states won't even allow us because of religious freedom laws. We have extra evaluations, delays in placements, implicit or explicit bias. So that's why I think, quite frankly, really, not to toot our own horn, but that's why I think it's really important that people know about GWK Academy, because we can help them navigate through this. We can help them navigate to find the right providers, find the right network, get them connected with the grant giving organizations and organizations that give discounts, etc. Because on top of all the stuff that I said, all the concerns, on a positive note, there are other organizations that are doubling down on supporting the LGBTQ plus community. And there are like new organizations or organizations like us that are absolutely here to do what we can to support you as well.
That's refreshing. So thank you for ending on that.
Yeah, sounds
I will
like
say,
I have to.
I have some friends who, to your point, have been in the adoption system for a while, and there is bias because they're just on a list and they're waiting. And I will also +1 to the cost of surrogacy. Mine was north of the 240 actually, so very, very real and very, very expensive. And so, I think all of us are fighting to have families, and people don't realize the cost and the emotional, toll it takes on us, all the decisions we have to make all up front, and it's real. And I always joke with my husband, I was like, and there's no gay discount when they're born. Like daycare's still charging you what a hetero couple has to pay for their child. So it's just, we bring these kids into the world, and then we're to even playing field still, So thank you. I guess, before we wrap up, I just want to give you a chance to speak to what's next? What are you working on right now? How can people that are listening get involved? Because it sounds like you want to build more and more community. What are you working on, and what can we do to help?
Thank you. What you can do to help is just this. So I'm so thrilled to be here on your podcast to help reach more people who are considering parenthood. What's next for us is we're still filling out the rest of our biological family building content for non-gay people, for people with uteruses, for trans and fertility, the trans and gender non-binary folks. We're building out fertility pathways for all those people. And then what I want to do, so where I find we get people who ask us for the most help is becoming parents, preparing. So now you've got someone who is pregnant, or you're pregnant, or you've got a surrogate who's pregnant, or a birth parent who's chosen you who's pregnant. You want to know what should you do to get ready, right? Brian, I don't know about you. We had no one. I actually called the doula, and the doula came with us to the hospital to pick up Levi. And I only learned about what a doula was because we had just finished watching Frasier, and the last season of Frasier, Niles and Daphne gave birth to a baby, and they talked about doulas. And so I didn't even know how to change a diaper, quite frankly, that then, or create a swaddle. So I want to do that content. And then we're also going to do content to help you during transition into parents. So I want to be the one-stop place to go to learn what your options are, and then to take you through every step of the way and be there for however you need us throughout the journey, help you prepare for the arrival, and then get you through that early transition, what I call the 4th trimester.
I love that, because Adam and I looked at each other. Both our kids were born in the hospital, and 24 hours they let you go, and you're like, wait, I'm leaving with this baby.
Where's the handbook?
I'm like,
Right,
wait, you're
then there is no
trust-
ham.
Yeah, you're literally when I turned to a nurse and said, wait, you're entrusting us with this? My husband knows, I know nothing. He knows less than I do. Like, what are you thinking?
That's
Yeah, it's definitely a journey. But I have found community in even the hetero couple community that they also deal with that same stress. So I felt like,
True.
okay, that wasn't unique to my experience, but still, it's very scary. And I think what I need to do as a parent now that I'm a gay parent with kids, like to parent them and keep them, educated. Kenzie had come home and has said, where's my mom? So it's like resources that you are providing really help us navigate some of these hard conversations that we're inevitably going to have, and that's okay. It feels like what you're doing is just breaking that barrier of fear down for us to say, like, these are going to happen. It's okay. Let's embrace them versus run from them. And you're giving us the resources to do that. So I love that. So thank you.
And while you're
Actually,
breaking
so-
down, go ahead, Brian.
Yeah. Oh, well, I was going to say one last thing to answer what people can really do. So we're now a not-for-profit. I shouldn't say that. We've applied for nonprofit status. We applied, I think it was in February, the end of February, actually application went in. I've been told on a normal year that could take 2 to 7 months. I have no idea what's going to happen now, but but it's my understanding that the staff that's been cut back from the federal government shouldn't affect an application for a nonprofit status with the IRS. Meaning that anyone who gives us money now, it'll still be tax deductible for next year's tax returns. It should be. But yeah, we launched by asking family building partners I've worked with for the last bunch of years to help support us. And soon we're going to launch officially asking the rest of the community to help support us. I promised I used Gays with Kids was a for-profit entity that not only never earned money, but lost money. And I personally invested in it every year. And I promised my husband that he likes to remind me we have 3 kids who are now teens and we need all the money we can get to raise these kids and pay for them. So I'm hoping that, I can get enough funding to cover our costs.
Yeah, that's awesome. And also, I wanted to point out that our community is so small, and I love that you're embracing the community and helping everyone, because you're even working with one of my best friends, Dave, on his Gaddy's program.
Oh, that's so funny. Okay, yeah.
Yeah, he was my roommate in New York many years ago.
Right,
So
he told me that.
yeah,
Yes.
so it was just like the community is not very big, and I just love that we all kind of reach over and just kind of help each other and make sure that we're all lifting each other up. So
Yes.
you're not just saying it; I can speak for you, saying that you are breathing and living it, and you do your best, and we appreciate it. So thank you.
Thank you. And if anyone's listening who does some kind of service or product that supports gay dads or our families or the LGBTQ plus community with Parenthood, etc., please reach out to me. I am happy to do what I can to lift you up and support you as well. So
Yes,
Glad you're
shout
here.
out to heygaddies.com.
yes.
Well, thank you, Brian. Thank you for the conversation. It's super enlightening. We would love to have you back. Like, there's so much more we could talk about. And so, if you'll come back, we would love to have you. So thank you so
Anytime.
much.
Anytime. Thank you very much. I enjoyed it.
Thank you, Brian. We did too.